Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another League of Legends Season 7 Champion Guide. Today, I'm going to be covering Dr. Mundo, the Madman of Zaun.
Mundo's ABCs of success. Always be CLEAVIN.
Mundo's a very tanky top laner that's very easy to farm on. Even if you are in a hard matchup and you have to play relatively safe, you can still pick up a lot of farm because of your cleavers. He has a lot of built-in sustain that comes from his passive ability and great poke even against tanky champions because of the percent health damage on his Q ability. Mundo is even a champion that has built-in tenacity whenever he activates his W ability. Just keep in mind that this will cost you health per second. Then finally, Mundo's a very strong duelist, especially in the mid and late game. He'll be an extremely tanky champion that's hard to bring down, yet do some pretty good damage because of his percent health damage. Mundo, however, is a lot less effective against grievous wounds. He's a champion that really relies on the healing from his passive and his ultimate. If, of course, you get grievous wounds on him, the healing is cut by a lot, and he's not going to gain a lot of health back. He's also a champion that's pretty weak early on, and he has a lot of hard matchups. He's a pretty decent pick against a lot of the champions out there, but you will struggle in a lot of your matchups. For my Masteries, I like to go 18 Resolve and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Grasp of the Undying as my Keystone Mastery. This will give Mundo even more sustain, and in those long drawn-out fights, he's usually going to easily win them. For the rest of your Masteries in the Resolve side, we pick up as much regeneration as possible and some tenacity. This will make us even harder to push out of lane. In the Ferocity side, we look to add a little bit more damage so our trades and last hitting is just a little bit more effective. For my runes, I like to go very defensive and go for attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and armor quints. This is going to give you an absolute ton of armor, and as long as you're against an AD champion, you're usually going to win trades and be very hard to push out of lane. If you knew you were going to go up against an AP laner, then you may want to go for health yellows instead. They'll usually be a lot more effective. We then want to pick up that attack damage to make our last hitting just a little bit easier, and your trades will just be a little bit better. For your summoner spells, you'll want to go for Flash and Teleport. Flash is a great summoner spell on Mundo because it's a really solid way to escape, and you can use it offensively as well to flash forward and slow an enemy with your infected cleaver. This can allow you or your team to catch up to the enemy and hopefully kill them. Now, Mundo is pretty strong in late game 1v1, so you'll want to take Teleport. You can put a ton of pressure on the enemy team since they may not be able to 1v1 you. It's of course also great for teleport ganking and making it to objectives like Dragon and Baron. Since you are relatively weak in the early game as well, you can back early, buy some defensive items, and teleport back to lane and be a lot stronger. Now let's look at your abilities, starting with your passive, Adrenaline Rush, which gives you some really nice regeneration, which is great in the lane phase. So passively, Mundo regenerates 0.3% max health every second. It's a very simple and easy to understand passive. If you start with something like a Doran Shield that already has some nice regeneration and some health, this will regenerate a lot as well, and pushing out a lane is going to be pretty damn hard, even if it's a hard matchup. It's also really nice because it does scale into the game as well. If you're buying items like a Spirit Visage and a Sunfire Cape, defensive items that do have a health pool on them, this will become even stronger. It's great for pretty much everything, late game teamfights, sieging, and of course, the lane phase. Your Q is Infected Cleaver, and this is your bread and butter ability, which is great for farming and poking. When activated, Dr. Mundo hurls a cleaver in the target direction, dealing magic damage to the first enemy it hits and slowing by 40% for 2 seconds. Half of the cost is refunded if Infected Cleaver hits an enemy, and the full cost is refunded if it kills an enemy. Infected Cleaver has a minimum damage threshold and is capped against non-champions. Of course, as you can see, this deals between 15 and 25% of the target's current health, which is pretty fantastic. You have to make sure you're hitting people with this ability, especially early on, because it will cost you a lot of your health. As I mentioned, it's also fantastic for last hitting because the full cost is refunded, and it will do a pretty good amount of damage from a pretty decent range. Therefore, during the lane phase, try to last hit with this ability as much as you can, but prioritize poking the enemy. Your W is Burning Agony, and this does some nice AoE damage, and is also your built-in tenacity. When toggled, Dr. Mundo sets himself on fire, dealing magic damage to nearby enemies and reducing the duration of crowd control on himself. This does have up to 30% cooldown reduction, which is pretty high, but you have to be aware because this does cost you health per second. It does, however, do some pretty solid AoE damage, and you can clear minion waves really easily. To use this ability, you'll want to activate it whenever you're going in for a trade or a team fight to make sure you reduce that crowd control and also deal some additional damage. Of course, as I did mention, if there is a big minion wave, you can also toss on this ability. If you do combine it with a Sunfire Cape, they're going to die pretty much immediately. You will want to make sure you're really careful with this ability early on because it will reduce your health by a lot. Once you do get into the later stages of the game where you have a lot of regeneration, you can keep this on a lot of the time. Your E ability is Masochism, and this does some really nice additional damage on your auto attacks. When activated, for the next 5 seconds, Dr. Mundo's next basic attack has 150 range and deals bonus physical damage. Additionally, Dr. Mundo gains bonus attack damage increased by 1% per 1% missing health for the duration. Masochism also resets Dr. Mundo's auto attack timer, so you'll want to follow it after an auto attack to increase your damage as much as possible. The bonus physical damage is also based on maximum health, so this can do a big chunk of damage to tanky targets. To use this ability when you're going in for a trade, follow it after an auto attack just to put out a little bit more damage and get off as many autos as you can in those 5 seconds. The bonus damage is also great for last hitting under tower, so if you do get shoved under tower, make sure you activate the ability so you can last hit those minions. Last here we have your ultimate Sadism, which is great for its health regeneration. When activated, Dr. Mundo regenerates health for 12 seconds and gains bonus movement speed for the duration. This heals for between 3.3 and 5% of your maximum health per second, so it can heal a lot of health. This does, however, also cost 20% of your current health, so you don't want to use it on too high of a health pool, but of course not too low of a health pool either. If you use it too low, you're just going to end up dying before the regeneration kicks in, and if you use it too high, you're going to cut off a lot of your own health. Of course, there's multiple ways to use this, and the first one would be in duels and teamfights. You'll want to wait until you're on at least a 40% health pool before you activate this ability. You should have more than enough time to actually survive so the health can kick in, but you're not going to cut off a lot of your own health. If you're struggling in the lane phase and you're on a pretty low health pool, you can also activate this just to fill your health. The cooldown isn't that long, so you're perfectly fine to use it in this way, but try to have it available for fights and duels. For your skill order, first you want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its really strong poke damage and last hitting ability, we want to max our Q ability first. After our Q, we have the choice of maxing either our W or our E second. I'll usually max my E second unless there is an absolute ton of crowd control on the enemy team, in which case I'll max my W second. Usually, however, I'll max my E ability second and make sure I take one early point in my W at either level 3 or 4, just so I do have some sort of crowd control reduction. In the lane phase, if you're in a hard matchup, then you'll want to try to farm and poke the enemy as much as possible from a safe distance with your infected cleaver. This will deal a lot of harassment and is great for last hitting. If you're in an easy lane, then you'll want to try and last hit with your auto attacks and abuse the enemy with both your infected cleaver and your masochism whenever they move near the minions to last hit. Keep in mind, if you do end up dropping low, you can always use your sadism for its extra sustain, so you don't need to leave the lane. Of course, finally, you want to make sure you're watching your map as much as you can for teleport gank opportunities, and of course, ward your goddamn lane. In teamfights, you have 2 main options. The first option, of course, is peeling for your carries. Mundo's a very durable champion, so you're going to be able to sit on the front line and soak damage for your team while you help them peel with the slow from your infected cleaver. The second option you have is getting onto the back line to try to kill their carries. If this is what you're going for, then make sure you activate your Burning Agony for its crowd control reduction so you can actually get to the back line. Once you're there, you'll want to slow their carries as much as you can with your infected cleaver so you can follow up with the damage from your masochism. You'll usually want to go for the peeling option, but if you do think you need to carry the game, then go for the back line. Now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Camille. Against a Camille, you're not really going to be able to kite around and hit her with your cleaver because of her damn ability, and she's going to destroy you when she puts you in her ultimate. Early and mid game, there's very little you can do to survive against a Camille, just try to get as much armor as possible. You should be able to outscale her in the later stages of the game when you're an incredibly tanky champion. If she does have Ignite, however, make sure you be very careful. Next here, I have the disgusting piece of shit that calls himself Darius. This guy can bully Mundo so much that it's honestly kind of stupid. You're going to have to try to keep at a range as much as possible and poke him down in last hit with your Q ability. Do not go for long drawn out trades against him because you will definitely lose. Wait until you're in the mid and late game where you're a very tanky champion, and then it's going to be time to trade with him. Next here I have Kale, who is a ranged champion that's going to bully the shit out of you. She also goes for an AP/AD mixed build early on, so even if you get armor or magic resist, she's still going to do a lot of damage. Whenever her E ability is activated, try to keep your range from her and just farm with your Q ability. When you do have a few defensive items, you should be able to trade fine with her, so just wait until you have a couple. Last here I have Tryndamere, and whenever he does have a bunch of rage, he should be able to just right-click you and kill you. Be very careful in the early game if he did take Ignite, because just a couple autos that do crit with an Ignite will get you killed really quickly. Just make sure you're very careful early on, get some armor, and then it's time to fight him. You will have to try to get a lead in the mid game, because if you let a Tryndamere scale, he's usually going to take complete control of the game. Now let's finish this off with your item build, which starts with a Doran Shield, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. Dr. Mundo is pretty much always weak no matter what matchup he's in, so I will take a Doran Shield all of the time. For your core build, you have the Sunfire Cape and a Spirit Visage. When you combine your Burning Agony and your Sunfire Cape, you can push lanes so quickly and take towers if you are ignored. Then for its bonus healing, you definitely have to pick up a Spirit Visage on Mundo. It is so incredibly broken with your ultimate. These items will also give you a really nice health pool, and you will have 10% CDR. For your boot options, you first have Ninja Tabis against high AD teams, Merc Treads against AP and CC heavy teams, and Boots of Swiftness for all-around mobility. For your item pool, we first start with the Warmog's Armor. This is a great way to pick up 10% more CDR, and it gives you a massive health pool. When you combine its regeneration with your passive, you're pretty much always going to be on a full health pool. Now for your main armor options, you have the Thornmail, Deadman's Plate, and Randuin's. Thornmail is fantastic against high AD teams if you want to reflect damage, Deadman's Plate is also a great option if you want added mobility, and Randuin's is really solid against high crit champions like Yasuo. If you want a mix of armor and magic resist, you could get the Gargoyle Stoneplate. Since you're also going to have a pretty high health pool, this is also a fantastic item when activated. For those 4 seconds, you're going to be virtually unkillable. If you instead needed some additional magic resist, you could get either the Adaptive Helm or the Abyssal Mask. The Abyssal Mask is great if you want to add a little bit of damage, and Adaptive Helm is great against spamming champions like a Cassiopeia's E or a Ryze's Q. For my example full build though, I take the core build, add some Ninja Tabis and then a Warmog's Armor, Abyssal Mask, and a Thornmail. You're going to have an insanely high health pool, some pretty decent damage, and of course reflect damage back to AD champions. You're going to be an extremely hard to kill champion, and you're going to do some pretty decent damage at the same time. And that is everything I've got for top lane Mundo. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all of my social medias. I do also have a Discord server, so if you do need any additional help or you just want to hang out, then please feel free to join. We have a lot of people in there, and a lot of them love to help anybody who needs it. I also have a second Let's Play channel, so if you enjoy Let's Plays, please also check out my second channel. But other than that, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, and peace.